So some of you might be wondering, why would I not get the iPad mini 7? There's a couple reasons. One, I had the iPad mini 6 and I loved it and hated it, found it useful and redundant all at the same time, which doesn't really make any sense, but I'm going to kind of explain my thoughts on that now. So a big reason I liked the idea of an iPad mini was because I love my iPad, for one. And I love the idea of an even smaller, even more portable and compact version that can fit in basically any bag, or sometimes even in my pockets, especially if they were like cargo shorts or cargo pants pockets. Totally could fit it in there. And just having an iPad wherever I went, and that was so neat. But here's the thing, is it something I really could use? So the idea of it was really interesting. Like I said, I love the iPad and I want to support more iPads, but there was downsides to it, pretty big ones. For one, I've been used to having ProMotion technology on my iPad and my iPhone now, that the 60 Hz display was noticeable for me. And sometimes even when using the Apple Pencil, I can notice a little bit more delay, not because of the Apple Pencil's latency, but just because the screen refreshing wasn't as fast. And that was annoying. That was actually something that I could notice that was frustrating. And honestly, I always thought the bezels looked a little chunky on the iPad mini. And this is more of a minor thing, but I wish they would make it maybe more like an 8.7 inch display or 8.5, something more like that, where they just push out the bezels, make them really nice and slim, basically right up until that selfie camera point. Even the iPad Pro's bezels are thinner than the iPad minis. And especially because of how much smaller the screen is, it makes them look even bigger than something like an iPad Air or an iPad 10, which I believe they're right around that size for the bezels. So again, not like a huge deal breaker, and for some people, they actually like that it has a bit more grip on the iPad itself before touching the screen, and teach their own. But I prefer even more of an all-screen look, and I think the iPad mini could benefit from that, where it has just a little bit more screen space, but no bigger footprint. I think that would be perfect for the iPad mini. So for using the iPad mini 6, those were some of my problems with it, and neither of those things are different here on the iPad mini 7. It didn't get ProMotion, the bezels didn't get any slimmer, so those are going to still be problems that I have. Now, I was never personally affected by the jelly scroll effect that some people said that happened on the iPad mini 6, and I'd be curious to see if the iPad mini 7 actually fixes that. They don't really mention it in their brief release notes of the iPad mini 7, but yeah, I'd be curious if that got fixed. But again, it never affected me, so that's not something I'm gonna be looking for or noticing as a difference, because it was never a problem. And then of course they switched to having the Apple Pencil Pro as the supported pencil, and there's pluses and minuses to that, because on the one hand, if you have an Apple Pencil Pro, which I do have for my iPad Pro here, then it's actually a benefit, because if I did get one, I wanted to buy a new pencil because I actually sold my second gen pencil. But if you have a second gen Apple Pencil, you might be a little frustrated at Apple for making another one switch to the Pencil Pro when there's not a huge amount of differences for the average user. Although, on the other hand, I do think this is just simpler for the lineup to just basically eliminate the second gen Apple Pencil altogether. And I hope Apple just stops selling it and just keeps only the Apple Pencil Pro, because even the basic iPad 10th gen doesn't support the second gen pencil, so they can just sell the Apple Pencil Pro, the USB-C Apple Pencil. I guess they're still probably selling the first gen one too for the iPad 10. They need to drop that one off too. But I think that's acceptable, and it just makes things a little bit easier to understand versus you trying to figure out which pencil goes with which iPad. There's just two main options, a higher end and a lower end, and I think that's smart. So unless you are blown away by the Apple Pencil Pro features, or you just really need Apple Intelligence on your iPad mini, I would not upgrade from the 6 to the 7. If you already have an iPad mini 6, you should probably just stick with it. Yeah, so really, even looking through all the changes I could possibly find in the iPad mini 6, the only confirmed differences is that it's getting the A17 Pro chip, which versus the A15 chip is not going to be hugely different. The A15 was still really, really powerful and could play a lot of the higher end games and stuff like that. A17 Pro can maybe play some of the more AAA games and stuff a bit better now. That's going to be basically the only difference, and it enables Apple Intelligence. And then it supports the new Apple Pencil Pro, and, which this is honestly a pretty big one, the storage size has increased from 64 to 128, and then it still has 256 as an option and 512 as an option. So hey, that is a win in the storage department. Honestly, nothing should be shipping with only 64 gigabytes of storage. That is a great change with the iPad mini 7 or iPad mini A17 Pro, as the website kind of calls it. Looks like they're trying to drop the generational numbers on all these models. They're just trying to make them known by the chip that's in them, which I guess works. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking to buy an iPad mini, having a 128 gigabyte option just out there in the world now is handy for sure. But do you need it over the iPad mini 6? Probably not. Again, you tell me how important Apple Intelligence is to you. I don't think it's that worth it. Not on an iPad mini, especially if you have it on any other device, you're probably fine. But it is an option, it's there, and I'm glad they refreshed it. I just think there is more changes that should happen to the iPad mini before it becomes a more tempting product for myself. I also have the 11-inch iPad Pro, so I already have an iPad and a small enough iPad to be pretty portable, but large enough to still be a powerhouse of a device. It's running the top-down camera and the one facing me here. So it's doing all that, and I have a website pulled up where I can look at some of the comparisons between models, and it's doing all that from right here, wirelessly, flawlessly. So that is awesome. Fits in a little corner of my desk, easily fits in a restaurant scenario, and fits in basically any kind of bag I have. So it's small enough for me. But if I really want that almost pocketable small notebook factor, that's actually exactly why I have this SuperNote device. I used to have an iPad mini 6, and I went on a search for different e-ink tablets to replace my iPad mini 6, because I realized the only neat thing that I used my iPad mini for was note-taking. And I did like it for that because it was so small and it was just my little mini notebook, and that was awesome. But so I'm like, okay, if I'm basically using it as a notebook, why don't I just get a dedicated notebook and be able to use that in place of it? And with an e-ink device, these things will have way better battery life, and it will just be my notebook that I can always pick up, and it pretty much always has enough charge for me to jot down my thoughts. So that's what I want. And I happened to be looking right before this device launched. So I actually tried a couple books devices first. I tried the Tab Mini C. I tried I think it was the Nova Air 2, still black and white one as well there. So both of those were fine, but that's when I learned I didn't really like Books' software too much. And I stumbled across SuperNote, which looked like a great blend between Remarkable and Books, and had some of its own very unique functions that just really appealed to me. And I got my SuperNote A6 X2 Nomad here, and this has been a rock star of a notebook. I just love writing on this thing. I love using it for my devotions. I use like the PDF of the NKJV that I showed in another video how to download onto this device. And I do a lot of reading with my wife on this, all that kind of stuff. Because I get enough blue light all over me. I have light shining in my face right now. So it's kind of nice to have a piece of technology that I can pick up that doesn't just shine light in my face. And it's my notebook and about the iPad mini size. And honestly, the other thing is, let me take down this camera right here. This is a 6.9-inch screen now, nearly a 7-inch diagonal screen. For watching content, even playing mobile games, this isn't that much smaller anymore than an 8.3-inch iPad mini. I mean, because of the aspect ratio, the iPad mini still gives you a decent amount more space, but it's not huge anymore. Like I said, the iPad mini needs to get closer to that 8.5 to 8.7 inch, almost a 9-inch screen, I think, to really be able to be a gap between an iPhone and an iPad, especially if you have the new Pro Max. They just got so big now, It's like, why would I have a small tablet when I have a medium-sized tablet already here, a large iPhone, and especially this small notebook? There's not really any gap that the iPad mini can fill for me. So I'm not a hater of the iPad mini. I actually think it's a really cool device. It just unfortunately has no place in my ecosystem of products. But let me know if you guys plan on getting a new iPad mini and what your biggest reason for choosing the iPad mini or upgrading to that iPad mini is. And you think that there's enough reasons that I should try to get one still to review on this channel. And hey, if anyone just wants to, send me one or pay for me to get one, I would totally review it. But I can't fit it in the budget and justify it in everything else that I have here. It's just still 500 bucks for something that I'd only just be reviewing. And that's a little steep for me. At this point, it's a no for me, but let me know what your guys' thoughts are all down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it to everyone you know. I wanna see this channel get to 5,000 subscribers before the end of the year. It'll be my Christmas present from you guys. So let's make it happen. I think we can do it. And I just really am excited to keep seeing this channel grow and grow. And I want all your feedback, whether it's positive or if it's critiquing something. I want to know what I can improve on so I can reach a bigger audience. And hey, if you're curious about my setup at all, I'm going to have all my newer equipment linked in the description below. Have some newer lights here and obviously some nano leaf behind me. This is 3D printed, and I have a new desk coming as well. So this one you'll only see in a couple videos. But yeah, if you're curious about any of it, it's all going to be linked in my description. And I still running my channel with iPhones and my iPad as my primary editor and everything like that. But I'm excited to keep seeing this space change and update my new studio here and keep growing alongside you guys. So as always, have a great rest of your day.